I'd been documenting abandoned places for 3 years when we found Clearwater Ridge. That's probably the right place to start this whole thing. The channel was called Lost Spaces, which sounds kind of pretentious now, but Miguel came up with it, and we all figured it worked. 5 of us ran it together. Miguel handled cameras. He's my roommate, decent guy, knows his way around equipment better than anyone I've met. Madeline edited our footage, turned my rambling narration into something people actually wanted to watch. Timothy did research, which mostly meant digging through property records and old newspaper archives until his eyes went crossed. Nicole managed our social media accounts and dealt with comments, which was probably the worst job of all of them. We'd started small, abandoned gas stations, a few old farmhouses, that kind of thing. Nothing too exciting. But people liked watching us poke around these places, hearing the stories behind why they got left behind. The channel grew, not huge, but enough that we could buy better equipment and take weekend trips to places farther out. I liked the work. There's something about empty buildings that gets to me. All that leftover intention just sitting there. Someone built these places thinking they'd matter, you know. Then life happened and everyone moved on. Left all that hope and planning to rot. Miguel always said I got too philosophical about it, but that's what kept me coming back. That and the fact that we were pretty good at it. Timothy found Clearwater Ridge on a Tuesday in early October. I was eating cereal and checking emails when he called. "You need to see this," he said. No hello, no small talk. That was Timothy when he got excited about something. "What did you find?" "Ski resort. Clearwater Ridge Resort. Abandoned since January 1996. I pulled up our shared folder while he talked. The property records were already there, scanned documents that looked like they'd been photocopied about 50 times. The resort sat on 400 acres in the Cascade Range, about 2 hours from where we lived. "Says here it closed mid-season," Timothy said. "Just shut down. No bankruptcy filing, no official reason. One day it was operating normally. Next day, the staff was gone." "That's weird." "Gets weirder. I found some forum posts about it. People talking about disappearances up there, time distortions, all that paranormal stuff." I scrolled through the documents. The resort had been built in 1987, operated for 9 seasons before closing. According to the tax records, it was still owned by some holding company in Portland, but they hadn't paid property taxes in over a decade. "Forum posts," I said. "Those are always reliable." I know, but the place is real. It's just sitting there." Miguel wandered into the kitchen while I was still reading. He grabbed my cereal box and shook it to see how much was left. "What's up?" he asked. "Timothy found us a ski resort." "Cool. Where?" I read him the address. Miguel nodded and started making his own bowl of cereal. He was one of those people who never got excited about anything until it was actually happening. The forum posts were exactly what you'd expect. Hikers claiming they'd lost 3 hours near the resort. Campers talking about hearing voices from empty buildings. One guy swore he'd seen lights in the windows at night, but when he got closer, the place was dark and obviously abandoned. Internet nonsense. People loved making up stories about empty places. Made them feel like they'd discovered something mysterious instead of just trespassing on private property. But the resort itself looked legitimate. The satellite images showed a main lodge, several smaller buildings, lift towers running up the mountainside, everything still standing, just empty. "How far up the mountain?" I asked Timothy. 8 miles on a Forest Service road. Road's probably rough, but my car can handle it." I forwarded the files to the group chat. Madeline responded first, asking about the legal situation. Nicole wanted to know if we could get there and back in a day. Miguel just sent a thumbs-up emoji. The property record showed the place had been listed for sale twice since closing, but both listings had been withdrawn. Current status was unclear, which usually meant nobody cared enough to do anything about it. "When do you want to go?" Timothy asked. "This weekend. Saturday afternoon, if everyone's free." "Should I dig up more background?" "Sure, but don't go crazy with the conspiracy theories." Timothy laughed. "I'll stick to the boring stuff. Permits, ownership history, that kind of thing." After he hung up, I kept looking at the photos. The main lodge was huge, probably 60 rooms or more, built in that rustic style that was popular in the 80s, all timber and stone, the kind of place that should have been successful. Miguel sat down across from me with his cereal. "You think it's legit?" he asked. "Looks like it. Timothy's pretty good at filtering out the fake stuff." "What about the weird stories?" "People see what they want to see. Empty place in the woods, their imagination fills in the blanks." Miguel shrugged. He wasn't skeptical exactly, just practical. If we could get good footage, he didn't care if the place was supposedly haunted. The rest of the week went normal. I worked my regular job. Miguel handled some freelance video projects. Everyone else did their usual stuff. But I kept thinking about the resort, looking at those satellite images, reading through Timothy's research updates. He'd found more details by Thursday. The resort had been doing fine financially when it closed. No complaints from guests, no safety violations, no obvious problems. The staff had just stopped showing up in late January. Management company tried to keep it running for a few days, then gave up and locked the doors. "Probably some kind of labor dispute," Madeline said when we met Friday evening to plan the trip. "Union thing or something." "In 1996? Timothy asked. Ski resort workers weren't exactly organized back then. "Could have been anything. Bad management, internal politics, who knows?" Nicole was scrolling through her phone while we talked. "I'm seeing some mentions of this place on Reddit. Recent stuff." "What kind of mentions?" "Hiking forums mostly. People asking about the area. Couple guys saying they tried to find it but got turned around on the Forest Service road. I'd checked the weather forecast twice. Saturday was supposed to be clear, temperature in the 50s. Good conditions for filming. The Forest Service road might be rough, but Timothy's Honda had decent clearance. "We should leave around noon," I said. "Give ourselves plenty of time to get up there and back before dark." "How long you want to spend filming?" Miguel asked. "Couple hours, probably. Depends what we find." Saturday morning felt like any other weekend. I packed my camera gear, grabbed some water bottles and granola bars. Miguel loaded his equipment into Timothy's car. The others showed up around 11:30, everyone looking ready for a normal afternoon shoot. Timothy had printed out directions and backup maps because cell service was supposed to be spotty once we got into the mountains. Nicole brought a portable charger for her phone. Madeline had her laptop in case we wanted to review footage on site. "Everyone ready?" I asked. They all nodded. Timothy started the car. The drive up to the mountains was pretty standard. Highway traffic, then smaller roads winding through farmland and eventually into forest. We stopped for gas in a town called Millfield, about 40 minutes from where the Forest Service road was supposed to start. "Last chance for snacks," Nicole said, heading into the convenience store. The place had that rural feel. Old guy behind the counter reading a newspaper, couple of locals buying coffee and lottery tickets. Nobody paid attention to us, which was fine. Back on the road, the landscape got more serious. Tall evergreens, steep slopes, that mountain quiet where your ears pop from elevation changes. Timothy followed his GPS until we reached the turnoff for the Forest Service road. "This is it," he said, stopping at a wooden sign that read FS 4701 in faded paint. The road was gravel and dirt, narrow enough that we'd have to be careful if another car came the other way. Timothy shifted into a lower gear and we started climbing. 8 miles doesn't sound like much, but Forest Service roads aren't built for speed. We crawled along at maybe 15 miles per hour, dodging potholes and rocks. The trees got thicker as we climbed, blocking out most of the sky. "GPS still working?" I asked. Timothy glanced at his phone. "Yeah, but signal's getting weak." About 6 miles in, we passed a rusted gate that hung open. No signs, no warnings, just an old metal barrier that somebody had left unlocked. The road kept going up. "Should be close now," Timothy said. I was watching out the window, looking for buildings or cleared areas. Nothing but trees and more trees. Then the road curved around a ridge and suddenly we could see the resort spread out below us in a wide valley. "Holy shit," Miguel said. It was bigger than the photos had suggested. The main lodge sat at the center of the complex, 4 stories of timber and stone with a green metal roof. Smaller buildings scattered around it, guest cabins, maintenance sheds, what looked like a restaurant or conference center. The ski lifts ran up the slope behind everything, metal towers and cables cutting through the forest. "That's a lot of building," Madeline said. Timothy pulled into what had probably been the main parking area. Cracked asphalt with weeds growing through it, but still recognizable as a place where cars used to park. We sat there for a minute, looking at the resort through the windshield. It felt strange seeing it in person after staring at satellite images all week. Bigger and smaller at the same time, if that makes sense. "Okay," I said. "Let's see what we found." We walked across the parking lot toward the main lodge, our boots crunching on gravel and dead leaves. The building looked solid, real solid. 4 stories of timber and stone, green metal roof that wasn't even rusted. The windows caught afternoon light, clean glass reflecting the forest behind us. That should have been the first sign something was weird. I mean, we'd filmed dozens of abandoned places. Gas stations with every window smashed. Farmhouses where the roof had caved in 3 sections. That old textile mill where pigeons had basically turned the second floor into their personal bathroom. 22 years of weather and vandals and animals. Buildings don't just sit there looking perfect. But this one did. Miguel jogged ahead to the main entrance, a set of double doors painted dark green, heavy wood with brass handles. I expected him to rattle them, maybe find a broken window we could climb through. Standard procedure for our shoots. Instead, he crouched down and pulled something from his jacket pocket. "Seriously," Nicole said. She'd been filming him with her phone. "You brought lockpicks?" "Just a basic set," Miguel said. He didn't look up from the door handle. "Bought them online. Figured we might need them eventually." Timothy laughed. "That's either really smart or really illegal." "Only illegal if we get caught," Miguel said. The lock clicked. He stood up and turned the handle. The door swung open easy, no squeaking hinges or anything. I figured Miguel was just being thorough. We always tried to find legitimate ways inside first. Open doors, broken windows, gaps in fencing. But if we had to bend some rules for a good episode, that was between us and our conscience. We stepped into a lobby that made my brain do this weird stutter thing. Everything looked wrong. Not broken wrong. Not vandalized wrong. Just wrong. The place was set up like guests might walk in any second. A burgundy sofa sat in front of a stone fireplace with logs stacked beside it. Magazines fanned out on a coffee table. 2 armchairs angled toward the windows. Everything arranged just right, like someone had hired an interior designer that morning. But dust covered every surface. Thick, even dust that looked like it had been settling for decades. I walked over to one of the armchairs and ran my finger along the armrest. The dust came away clean, leaving a dark stripe in the fabric underneath. The chair itself looked perfect, though. No rips in the upholstery, no stains, no mouse droppings or bird mess or any of the usual crap you find in abandoned buildings. "This is bizarre," Madeline said. She had her camera out, panning slowly across the room. "Look at this furniture. It's like they just walked away yesterday." Nicole was already at the front desk, a big wooden counter that stretched across one wall. Above it, a pegboard held dozens of room keys hanging from numbered hooks. Actual metal keys, not the plastic card things hotels use now. "Room 207, Nicole read. 212, 215. She looked back at us. "These are all here, like nobody ever checked out." I walked over to join her. The desk had that same thick dust coating, but underneath I could see a leather-bound guest registry, a pen holder with 3 pens, and a small calendar. The calendar made my stomach do something uncomfortable. It was one of those desk calendars with 1 month per page. January 1996. Someone had circled a date in red marker, January 23rd. Just a neat red circle around the number like marking a deadline or appointment. "Check this out," I said, pointing at the calendar. Timothy leaned in close, adjusting his glasses. January 23rd. That's probably when they closed. Just marked the last day and walked away. Maybe. but something about that red circle bugged me. Too neat. Too deliberate. Like someone had known exactly when everything would end. I started filming with my main camera, sweeping across the lobby in wide shots. We'd edit this later, add our commentary and background music. Right now, I just wanted to document everything before we moved deeper into the building. That's when Nicole made this little gasping sound. "Oh, gross," she said. She was standing by a small seating area near the windows, 2 chairs and a round table. On the table sat 2 coffee cups, white ceramic with dark stains around the rims. I walked over for a closer look. The cups still had liquid in them. Well, not liquid exactly. More like dark residue, thick and syrupy looking. Coffee that had been sitting there so long it had basically turned into sludge. 22 years, I said, mostly to myself. That coffee's been sitting there for 22 years. Miguel came up beside me and made a face. "That's disgusting. Imagine the smell if you opened those cups." But here's the thing. There wasn't really a smell. I mean, the lobby had this musty, closed-up smell you'd expect. But no rot. No mold. No dead animal stench. Nothing that said, "This place has been abandoned for 2 decades. I kept filming, getting close-ups of the coffee cups, the dust patterns, the perfect arrangement of everything. For the video, this would be great content. Mysterious abandoned resort. Everything frozen in time. All that good stuff our subscribers ate up. But standing there with my camera, I couldn't shake this feeling that something was seriously off about the whole setup. I've been doing this for 3 years. I know what abandoned looks like. Buildings fall apart. Weather gets in through broken windows and damaged roofs. Animals move in. Plants grow through cracks in the foundation. Vandals spray paint walls and steal anything valuable. This place looked like the staff had just stepped out for lunch. "Maybe the altitude preserved everything," Madeline said. She was examining a lamp beside the sofa, running her finger through the dust. "Like the cold and dry air. That could slow down decay, right?" Timothy nodded, but he had this nervous energy about him. He kept adjusting his glasses and looking around like he expected someone to jump out from behind the furniture. "Sure," he said, "like a time capsule. Natural refrigeration. That's probably it." He laughed, but it came out too high and too quick. The kind of laugh people make when they're trying to convince themselves everything's fine. I kept my mouth shut and kept filming. But I was thinking about those coffee cups and that calendar with its red circle and the way every single room key was hanging in perfect order on that pegboard, like nobody had ever left. Like they were all still here somewhere, just waiting for us to find them. I figured we'd cover more ground if we split up. Made sense. 5 people clumped together wasn't going to get us much footage, and we had maybe 2 hours before we needed to head back. "Miguel and I'll take the upper floors," I said. "You guys check out the basement level." Nicole nodded and shouldered her camera bag. "Sounds good. We'll meet back here in an hour?" "Hour and a half," Timothy said, adjusting his glasses again. That nervous habit was getting more pronounced. "Give us time to really look around." Madeline was already heading toward a door marked lower level near the back of the lobby. "Just be careful up there, okay?" Miguel grabbed his camera equipment and followed me to the main staircase. The steps were solid wood, no creaking or sagging, just that same thick dust coating everything. Our footprints showed clearly in it. The second-floor hallway stretched out in front of us. That's when I noticed something weird. The hallway looked longer than it should have been. I'd walked around the outside of the building when we first arrived, counted my steps without thinking about it. The main lodge was maybe 120 feet long, give or take, but this hallway just kept going. "Huh," I said. Miguel was setting up his camera, checking the battery level. "What?" "Nothing, just how many rooms you think are up here?" He looked down the hallway. Doors lined both sides, each with a brass number plate. 201, 203, 205 on the left, even numbers on the right. "I don't know. 20? 30? I started walking. The carpet was this dark red color with a pattern that probably looked fancy in 1987. Now, it just looked dated. The dust showed our tracks clearly behind us. Miguel followed, filming as we went. His camera made that soft whirring sound when it focused. "You getting this weird feeling?" he asked. "What kind of feeling?" "Like, I don't know. Like we're not supposed to be here." I stopped at room 207 and tried the handle. Locked. "We're not supposed to be anywhere we go, Miguel. That's kind of the point." "Yeah, but this feels different." I pulled out the universal key ring Miguel had picked up from behind the front desk, found the right key, and opened the door. The room was small but clean, single bed with white sheets tucked tight at the corners. Little writing desk by the window. Bathroom door cracked open. "Looks normal," I said, stepping inside. Miguel stayed in the doorway, filming over my shoulder. The bed was made perfectly, hospital corners and everything. I checked the bathroom, clean white tiles, towels folded on the rack, little bottles of shampoo and soap lined up on the counter. "Next one," I said. We went through maybe 15 rooms like that, all the same. Made beds, clean bathrooms, everything ready for guests who never showed up. Miguel filmed it all, but I could tell he was getting more nervous. His breathing got a little faster, and he kept looking back toward the staircase. The hallway just kept going. I'd lost count of the doors. Had to be more than 30 rooms now, which didn't make sense. The building wasn't that big from outside. "Henry," Miguel said when we reached room 231. "This is taking forever. Maybe we should—" "Just a few more," I said. "We're getting good stuff here." Room 233 was the same as all the others. 235, same thing. I was starting to think the whole floor would be like that when I got to 237. The key turned, but the door felt heavier when I pushed it open. Like there was air pressure or something. This room wasn't empty. A suitcase sat open on the bed. Dark blue with brass corners, the kind people used to travel with. Clothes were folded inside it. Men's clothes, mostly. Button-down shirts, slacks, a sweater. On the nightstand, someone had left a watch, silver with a black leather band. "Oh, shit," Miguel whispered behind me. I walked over to the suitcase. The clothes looked normal, maybe a little old-fashioned, but not ancient. I could smell something faint, cologne or aftershave. The bathroom door was open. I went in and found more stuff. A leather toiletry bag unzipped on the counter. Razor, shaving cream, a bottle of Old Spice, toothbrush and a glass. The towels were hanging crooked on the rack, like someone had used them recently. I reached out and touched one of the hand towels. It was damp, not soaking wet, but definitely not completely dry. "Henry," Miguel's voice was tight. "We need to leave, right now." I turned around. He was backing toward the door, camera still rolling, but his hands shaking a little. "It's probably just condensation," I said. "Old buildings hold moisture weird." "That towel is damp. Someone used that towel." I looked back at it. He was right. The dampness wasn't even all over. Just in the middle, like someone had dried their hands with it. "Miguel, calm down." "No, man, no, this is—" He was almost in the hallway now. "We shouldn't be here. Someone's still here. Someone's living here." I followed him out of the bathroom but stopped at the suitcase again. The clothes were folded too neatly, like someone had just packed them. Or unpacked them and put everything back exactly right. "Look," I said, "I get it. It's weird. But we came here to document this place, and this is what we found. We can't just run because things get a little strange." Miguel was breathing fast. "A little strange? Henry, there's someone here, someone who was just in that bathroom. Maybe. Or maybe someone was here weeks ago and the buildings just preserved everything, like Madeline said downstairs. The cold, dry air. Towels don't stay damp for weeks." He had a point, but we'd come this far, and I wasn't ready to bail just because of some weird preservation thing. Even if it was weird. Even if it was making my skin crawl a little. 5 more rooms, I said. Then we'll go back downstairs and regroup with the others, but we finish what we started. Miguel looked at me like I was insane. Maybe I was, but that's what we did. We pushed into places other people wouldn't go, and we documented what we found. That was the whole point. 5 more, he said finally. Then we're done. We headed up to the 3rd floor. Miguel's camera bounced against his hip as he climbed the stairs behind me. The wood creaked under our feet, but it felt solid, sturdy, like everything else in this place that should have been falling apart, but wasn't. The 3rd floor had a different layout than the 2nd. Instead of just hallways lined with guest rooms, there was an open area at the top of the stairs. A sitting area, I guess you'd call it. 2 couches facing each other with a coffee table in between. And against the far wall, this enormous television. Jesus, Miguel said, setting his camera down. Look at the size of that thing. It was one of those old tube TVs from the 90s, had to weigh 300 pounds easy. The kind that took 2 people to move and left permanent dents in your carpet. But what made me stop walking was the screen. It was on, displaying static, just white and gray snow flickering across the glass like a blizzard. I walked closer. The static wasn't random either. It had this pattern to it, like waves rolling across the screen every few seconds. The sound was turned down, but I could hear the faint hiss of white noise coming from the speakers. Miguel, I said, check behind that thing. He walked around to the back of the TV while I kept staring at the screen. The static kept rolling, same pattern, same timing, like it was stuck in a loop. No power cord, Miguel called out. I mean, there's a cord, but it's not plugged into anything, just hanging loose behind here. I figured there had to be some kind of battery backup. Hotels sometimes had emergency power systems for essential equipment. Maybe this TV was connected to some kind of uninterrupted power supply that was still running after all these years. But even as I thought it, I knew how stupid that sounded. Battery backups don't last 22 years, and this wasn't essential equipment. It was a guest TV in a sitting area. Henry, Miguel said, walking back around. Battery backups don't work on tube TVs this big. These things need serious power, like wall outlet power. You can't run one of these off a battery pack. He was right. I knew he was right. But the TV was definitely on. The static kept rolling across the screen in that same hypnotic pattern. I reached out and touched the glass. It was warm. Maybe there's still power running to this floor, I said. Could be on a different circuit than the rest of the building. Miguel shook his head. We checked the switches downstairs, remember? Everything was off. And look. He pointed to a lamp on the end table next to one of the couches. That's not on. Neither is that overhead light. I looked around the sitting area. He was right. Nothing else had power. Just the TV. Just the impossible TV displaying static without being plugged into anything. Okay, I said. So it's weird. We document weird. That's what we do. Miguel picked up his camera and started filming the TV. I walked over to check the other end of the sitting area. More furniture, a bookshelf with old magazines, Reader's Digest from 1995, Newsweek from January 1996. That's when I saw the figure. It was just a glimpse. Movement in my peripheral vision. Someone walking past the hallway intersection behind us, wearing what looked like a bright blue and yellow ski jacket. The old puffy kind from the 80s and 90s. I turned my head, but Miguel was already spinning around with his camera, trying to follow whatever he'd seen too. The hallway was empty. Long and dark with doors on both sides, same as the floor below. But nothing there. No one there. Did you see that? Miguel whispered. Yeah, I said. Someone in ski gear? He nodded, still filming down the empty hallway. His hands were shaking a little. Blue and yellow jacket, just walked right past like they owned the place. I walked to the intersection and looked both ways. The hallway stretched in both directions, doors lining the walls every 10 feet or so. All closed, all quiet. The carpet showed our footprints in the dust from when we'd come up the stairs, but no other tracks. No sign that anyone else had been walking around up here. Must have been shadows, I said. Light coming through one of the windows, maybe. Miguel lowered his camera. That wasn't shadows, Henry. That was a person wearing a ski jacket. Before I could argue with him, our walkie-talkie crackled to life. Timothy's voice came through, but it sounded wrong, distorted, like he was talking through water. Henry, Miguel, you guys need to hear this. The signal cut out for a second, then came back. The arcade machines down here, they're running. I grabbed the radio from my belt. What do you mean running? I mean they're on, playing by themselves. Pac-Man is going through a full game right now and there's no one touching the controls. The signal got worse. Timothy's voice faded in and out. High scores are from January 23rd, 1996. Then Madeline's voice cut in, clearer than Timothy's, but still with that underwater quality. Henry, I'm in what looks like staff quarters. There's a frozen dinner on the table, Salisbury steak. Still frozen solid, but it's sitting here like someone just took it out of the freezer. Miguel and I looked at each other. The TV behind us kept displaying its impossible static. Nicole's voice came through next, higher pitched than usual, scared. Where did everyone go? I was just in the restaurant area, and now I can't find Timothy or Madeline anywhere. Hello? Can anyone hear me? That got my attention. Nicole wasn't the type to panic easily. If she was scared, something was wrong. Everyone return to the lobby, I said into the radio. Right now. Drop whatever you're doing and meet us in the lobby. The walkie-talkie crackled with acknowledgments. Timothy's distorted voice. Madeline saying she was on her way up. Nicole sounding relieved that she'd heard from us. I looked at Miguel. He was staring at the TV screen, where the static continued its endless pattern. We're leaving, I said. He nodded and shouldered his camera. Good call. But as we headed for the stairs, I couldn't shake the feeling that we weren't alone up here. That someone in a blue and yellow ski jacket was watching us from one of those dark doorways, waiting for us to leave so they could get back to whatever they'd been doing for the past 22 years. We started down the stairs. I counted each step out of habit. Something about filming locations makes you pay attention to that kind of stuff. 1 flight, 2 flights, 3 flights. But the stairs kept going. I stopped on what should have been the ground floor and looked around. Another identical landing. Same wood paneling. Same brass light fixtures. Miguel was breathing hard behind me, his camera equipment jangling with each step. This is 4 flights, I said. What? Miguel looked up from below me. No way, we went up 3. I kept counting. 5 flights, 6 flights. Each landing looked exactly the same. Same burgundy carpet runner, same wall sconces, same wooden banister that felt smooth under my palm. Like they'd just copied and pasted the same floor plan over and over. This doesn't make sense, Miguel said when we finally reached what had to be the bottom. His voice echoed weird in the stairwell. I pushed through the door and stopped. The lobby looked wrong. Not different. Wrong. Like someone had flipped a photograph. The burgundy sofa sat in the same spot, but facing the opposite direction. The stone fireplace was on the left wall instead of the right. The front desk had moved to the other side of the room entirely. What the hell? Miguel whispered behind me. I walked to where the front desk should have been. Just empty wall with the same wood paneling. The actual desk was across the room now, in a spot where I definitely remembered seeing a seating area before. The pegboard with all the room keys hung behind it, but the numbers looked backwards somehow. Miguel was filming. Good. I probably should have been too, but I couldn't stop staring at the furniture. Everything was there, just mirrored, like we'd walked into some parallel version of the same room. I headed for the front door, had to be some kind of optical illusion or something. Maybe the stairwell had turned us around and we'd come out a different entrance. The brass handle wouldn't turn. I pulled harder, twisted it both ways. Nothing. The door was solid, like it had been welded shut. Miguel, I kept trying the handle. Help me with this. He set his camera down and grabbed the other handle. We both pulled. The door didn't budge even a little, not stuck, locked, or sealed. That's when I looked through the windows. No parking lot, no gravel road, just trees. Dense forest pressed right up against the glass, branches touching the windows. Tall evergreens that blocked out most of the sky. Like the building had been dropped in the middle of the woods instead of sitting in that open valley. "Where's Timothy's car?" Miguel's voice cracked. I couldn't answer that. I was staring at a tree trunk maybe 3 feet from the window. Definitely hadn't been there when we'd walked across the parking lot an hour ago. "Henry! Miguel!" Nicole's voice came from somewhere behind us. I turned around. All 3 of them were walking into the lobby from different hallways. Nicole came from where the lower-level stairs should have been. Timothy emerged from a hallway I didn't remember seeing before. Madeline walked out of what looked like a service corridor. "Thank God," Nicole said. She looked rattled. I couldn't find the stairs back up. I kept walking in circles. "Same," Timothy said. He was breathing fast and kept adjusting his glasses. "I found stairs, but they just kept going down. Like way down. I counted 8 flights before I turned around." Madeline walked over to us. "I went down 3 floors from the restaurant level. Should have put me in the basement, but I ended up here instead." Miguel pointed at the windows. "Look outside." They all turned. Nicole made a small sound in her throat. "That's not where we parked," Timothy said. "No kidding." I walked back to the front desk, the new front desk, on the wrong side of the room. Maybe the guest registry would tell us something, figure out what was happening here. The leather-bound book was still there. Same 3 pens in the holder, same desk calendar. But the calendar was wrong. Still January 1996. Still had a date circled in red marker, but not the 23rd anymore, October 13th. "Timothy," I called him over. "Look at this." He squinted at the calendar through his glasses. "That's today's date." "Yeah, but it's January 1996 on the calendar." "I know." Timothy stared at it for another few seconds. The red circle moved. I nodded. When we'd first found the calendar, January 23rd had been circled. Now it was October 13th. Same red marker, same handwriting. Like someone had erased the old circle and drawn a new one. "This is seriously messed up," Nicole said. She was filming everything with her phone, panning across the reversed lobby. That's when I heard footsteps. Multiple sets, coming from the hallways, different directions. I looked up from the calendar. People were walking into the lobby. Lots of people. They came from the same hallways my team had used. From the staircase we'd just descended. From doorways I hadn't noticed before. Maybe a dozen at first. Then more. All wearing ski clothes. Bright 80s and 90s colors. Electric blue jackets, neon yellow pants. Geometric patterns that screamed late-night infomercial fashion. The kind of stuff you'd see in old ski resort brochures. They moved in sync. Not marching, but walking with the exact same gait, same rhythm, same stride length. All their heads tilted at identical angles, like they were listening to something none of us could hear. "Oh no," Madeline whispered. "Oh no, oh no, oh no." More kept coming, filling the lobby. I counted maybe 30 people, maybe 40. Hard to tell because they kept moving, arranging themselves in some kind of pattern around us. I got a good look at the nearest one. A woman in a bright purple ski jacket with white and pink stripes. She was smiling, but her face was wrong. Her eyes were too big, like someone had stretched them wider than human eyes should go. Her mouth smiled without showing any teeth. Just a curved line across the bottom half of her face, and her skin looked thin, translucent, like I could see shadows moving underneath. All of them had the same face, same 2 wide eyes, same toothless smile, same see-through skin. They arranged themselves in rows, filled the lobby space around us, all facing our direction. None of them blinked. Miguel was hyperventilating behind me. Nicole had stopped filming and was gripping Timothy's arm. Madeline was backing toward the windows, but I couldn't look away from their faces. Dozens of them, all smiling that empty smile, all watching us with those stretched-out eyes, all perfectly still except for the gentle swaying that came with breathing, waiting for something. Nicole's scream cut through everything, high-pitched and raw, the kind that comes from somewhere deep. She bolted toward what I thought was a side exit near the fireplace. I'd noticed that door earlier but figured it was probably a closet or something. The sound made my teeth hurt. That's the thing about real terror. It doesn't sound like movies. It sounds broken. She moved fast. Faster than I'd ever seen Nicole move, and she ran track in college. Her red ponytail whipped back and forth as she sprinted across the burgundy carpet. Her camera bag bounced against her hip with each step. "Nicole, wait!" Timothy called out, but she was already through the door. I kept my eyes on the spot where she'd disappeared. The door stayed open behind her, which was good. At least I thought it was good. The opening showed another room with the same wood paneling and dim lighting. Looked like it might connect to other parts of the building. Then I saw her through the interior window. There's a long window that runs along the wall between the lobby and what I now realized was some kind of conference room, probably where they held ski lesson sign-ups back in the day. Nicole was in there, but she wasn't heading for any exit. She was running in circles, not jogging, not pacing, full speed running like someone was chasing her, except nobody was chasing her. She'd sprint to one corner, then wheel around and run to the opposite corner, then back again. Her arms pumped at her sides and her face looked panicked, but she kept running the same pattern over and over. "What the hell is she doing?" Miguel asked. I pressed my face to the window glass. The conference room had 3 other doorways that I could see. Nicole would run toward one, then suddenly veer away like she'd hit an invisible wall. She'd try another door, same thing, then back to running her circuit. She wasn't trapped. The doorways were open, but something was keeping her from leaving that room. Timothy must have seen it too because he headed for the door Nicole had used. "I'm going to get her." He grabbed the brass handle and pulled. The door opened fine, but instead of the conference room, there was a linen closet, white shelves stacked with folded towels and bed sheets, a vacuum cleaner tucked in the corner. That musty, clean laundry smell. Timothy stood there for a second, then shut the door and tried again. Same closet. "That's not right," he said. His voice had that nervous laugh edge again. I looked back through the window. Nicole was still running her circles, but now she was looking directly at us through the glass. Her mouth was moving like she was screaming, but no sound came through. She pressed her palms against the window from her side, then kept running. That's when I noticed the sound behind me. Footsteps. But not regular footsteps. These had a mechanical quality, like gears clicking into place. Perfectly timed. No variation in the rhythm. I turned around. The ski jacket people were moving closer. They'd been standing in their neat rows, but now they were walking toward us in perfect synchronization. Same stride length, same pace, same slight tilt to their heads, like they were all listening to the same song through invisible headphones. The sound their feet made wasn't quite right. Too crisp, too precise, like someone was operating them with a remote control. Miguel's camera hit the carpet with a soft thud. I looked over, and he was just staring at the approaching figures. His hands hung at his sides, and his mouth was half open. The camera lay between his feet, lens cap rolled a few inches away. "Miguel," I said. He didn't respond, didn't blink. Just stood there watching them approach with this blank expression I'd never seen on his face before. The ski jacket people kept walking, 30 or 40 of them moving as one unit. Their feet hit the carpet in perfect unison, click step, click step, click step. The sound echoed off the wood paneling. That's when Madeline grabbed my arm. Her fingers dug into my jacket sleeve, right above the elbow. Firm grip, like she was steadying herself, or steadying me. "Henry," she said, and her voice sounded different. Softer. Dreamy, like she was half asleep. "We should listen to them." I looked down at her hand on my arm. Her nails were painted dark blue, which I'd never noticed before. They seemed longer than usual. "Listen to who?" I asked. "The guests." She was still holding my arm, but her grip felt looser now, more like she was floating than grabbing. "They want us to stay. They want us to join them." Her voice had this distant quality, like she was talking from the other end of a long tunnel. Each word came out slow and careful. "Madeline, what are you talking about?" "It makes sense," she said. "We came here to document, to preserve, to be part of the story." She turned to look at me, and that's when I saw her face. Her eyes were changing. Not the color, the size. They were getting larger, stretching wider than any human eyes should stretch. The same unnatural width I'd seen on the ski jacket woman. But it was happening gradually, like someone was slowly adjusting the settings. "We should stay," she repeated. "We should become part of this place, part of the preservation." Her pupils had dilated so much they looked black. And behind them, something was moving. Shadows shifting under the surface, just like I'd seen in the woman with the purple jacket. I yanked my arm free. Madeline's hand dropped to her side, but she kept staring at me with those growing eyes. Her smile was getting wider too. Not happy wider, just wider, the corners of her mouth stretching beyond where they should naturally stop. The ski jacket people were maybe 10 feet away now, close enough that I could see their synchronized breathing, all inhaling together, all exhaling together, like they shared one set of lungs. Miguel still hadn't moved. Timothy was at the linen closet door, trying the handle over and over. Nicole kept running her circles on the other side of the window, and Madeline kept smiling that impossible smile. I looked around the lobby for anything useful. The fireplace had tools, but they were probably decorative. The front desk was too far away. But there were chairs, heavy wooden chairs with thick arms and solid construction. I grabbed the nearest one. The ski jacket people stopped walking when I lifted it. All at once, like someone had hit a pause button. They stood there watching me with their stretched eyes and empty smiles. "Henry," Madeline said in that dreamy voice, "don't fight it. It's easier if you don't fight it." I carried the chair toward the windows facing what used to be the parking lot. The glass looked thick, but not impossibly thick. Old-style window glass, probably from the original construction. The evergreen trees pressed against the outside of the windows were so close I could see individual needles. They swayed slightly in whatever wind was blowing out there. Real trees. Real movement. Which meant there was still an outside. I lifted the chair above my head. "Henry, no," Madeline said, but her voice was fading, getting more distant. The ski jacket people took one step forward, all of them, same foot, same timing. I brought the chair down on the window as hard as I could. The glass exploded outward in a shower of sharp pieces. Cold air rushed into the lobby, carrying the smell of pine needles and something else. Something cleaner than the musty air inside the building. The hole was big enough, jagged around the edges, but big enough. The cold hit me first, sharp mountain air that made my lungs burn and my eyes water. Real air, not that stale, musty smell from inside. I grabbed the window frame and pulled myself through, feeling glass crunch under my palms. Didn't care about the cuts. The hole was big enough but jagged around the edges, and I scraped my jacket on the way out. Dropped maybe 3 feet onto pine needles and dirt. Solid ground. Thank God, solid ground. The forest looked right. That's the thing that hit me. It looked exactly like it should. Tall evergreens, thick undergrowth, patches of fading afternoon light filtering through the canopy. Real trees with real bark and real shadows. Not pressed up against windows like some fake backdrop. I turned back toward the lodge and almost lost it. The window I'd just crawled through wasn't broken. Clean glass, no hole. No cracks, like I'd never touched it with that chair. That's when I ran. Didn't look back again. Didn't check if anyone was following. Just crashed straight into the underbrush, branches whipping my face and catching my jacket. My boots slipped on wet leaves and I went down hard on my knee, scrambled back up, kept going. The forest was thick, but it was real forest. I could smell pine sap and damp earth. Could hear my own breathing. My footsteps crunching through dead branches. I figured I was going roughly the right direction. Had to be. We'd parked somewhere in this mess of trees, and Timothy's car was probably still there. Had to be. Took me maybe 20 minutes to find the service road. Just a narrow dirt track winding through the forest, but it was definitely FS 4071. I recognized the deep ruts and the way it curved around that big boulder. My legs were shaking by then, partly from running and partly from everything else. The Honda wasn't there. I stood in the middle of the road for a long time, looking at the empty spot where Timothy had parked. No tire tracks, no oil stains, just gravel and weeds like no car had ever been there. That's when I started walking toward the highway. 8 miles. Took me almost 3 hours because I kept stopping to look back, expecting to see them coming down the road behind me. Miguel with his camera bouncing on his shoulder, Timothy adjusting his glasses, Nicole with her phone out, probably trying to get signal, Madeline carrying her laptop bag. But the road stayed empty. The highway was real enough, 2 lanes of cracked asphalt with occasional semis rumbling past. I stood on the shoulder with my thumb out until a pickup truck stopped. Guy in flannel and work boots who didn't ask too many questions when I said I'd gotten separated from my friends while hiking. He dropped me off at the Millfield gas station, same one we'd stopped at on the way up. Same clerk behind the counter, same racks of jerky and energy drinks. I used their payphone to call the sheriff's office. Officer Espinoza met me there 40 minutes later. Big guy, maybe mid-40s, with gray hair and the kind of steady voice that probably works well on domestic disturbance calls. He listened to my story without interrupting, took notes in a small spiral notebook, asked the right questions. You said the building looked different inside? Yeah, the lobby was flipped, like a mirror image. And your friends went in different directions. We split up earlier, but they all made it back to the lobby before. I stopped. Before what? Before the ski people showed up? Before the windows turned into forest? Before everything went sideways? Before you decided to leave? Yeah, something like that. He drove me up to the Forest Service Road the next morning, brought 2 other officers and a guy from Search and Rescue. I sat in the back of Espinoza's patrol car and watched them argue about where exactly the resort was supposed to be. We found it, eventually. Same valley, same buildings. The main lodge looked exactly like it had when we'd first arrived. 4 stories, timber and stone, green metal roof, clean windows that reflected the morning sun. Espinoza used bolt cutters on the front door lock, the same brass handles Miguel had picked the day before. The lobby was normal. Burgundy sofa facing the right direction, fireplace on the right wall, front desk where it belonged. Thick dust on everything. No footprints in the carpet. The coffee cups were still there on the table by the windows, still full of that dried black syrup. But our footprints were gone. 5 people had walked through that lobby, up those stairs, down those hallways. We'd touched door handles and examined room keys and left traces everywhere. Nothing. Clean dust, undisturbed for decades. They searched for 6 hours, checked every room, every closet, every corner, called out names until their voices echoed off the empty walls. Miguel, Timothy, Madeline, Nicole. Over and over. The windows were all intact. Every single one. Espinoza specifically checked the lobby windows where I said I'd broken out. Perfect glass. No cracks. No repairs. You sure it was this window? I was sure. Same view of what used to be the parking lot. Same brass latch. Same everything, except for the glass that should have been broken all over the ground outside. They found the guest registry at the front desk. Same leather-bound book. Same pens in the holder. The calendar still showed January 1996, but the 23rd wasn't circled anymore. Just a normal square with a normal date, no red marker. They didn't find Miguel's camera. The one he dropped in the lobby when the ski people started walking toward us. Espinoza and I went back to that exact spot, got down on our hands and knees, checked under the sofa and behind the chairs. Nothing. I had my camera with me, the one I'd been using to film wide shots of the lobby. When I got home and downloaded the memory card, I figured I'd have proof. Something to show them what the place really looked like. The photos showed normal decay, broken chairs, water damage on the ceiling, graffiti on the walls, standard abandoned building stuff. The kind of thing we'd filmed 100 times before. The coffee cups weren't there. The made beds weren't there. The thick dust was there, but it looked like regular old dust, not the pristine coating I remembered. Every single photo looked like a normal, boring, empty ski resort. I know what happened to them. I know where Miguel and Timothy and Madeline and Nicole are right now. They're still inside, in that preserved January, where the coffee was still warm and the room keys hung waiting on their hooks. They're guests now, part of the collection. The thing is, I keep thinking about those forum posts Timothy found, the ones about hikers getting lost, about people disappearing near the resort. I bet some of those people made it out too, probably told the same story I told, probably sounded just as crazy. And I bet the resort is still there, waiting, still looking normal from the outside, still unlocked, still full of empty rooms with made beds and clean bathrooms. The calendar probably shows a different date now. Maybe next month, maybe next year. But it's still circled in red, still marking the day when new explorers decide to document what they find. I think about that a lot. About other YouTube channels, other urban explorers, other people who like to film abandoned places. How many of them have found that same research Timothy did? How many have driven up that same Forest Service road? The Lost Spaces channel is done. Hard to make exploration videos when 4/5 of your team disappears. I tried editing the footage we shot that day, but the files were corrupted, just static and digital noise. Sometimes I check the view count on our old videos. Still gets traffic. Still gets comments from people asking when we're going to post new content, when we're going to explore more places. I never answer. But I know Miguel and Timothy and Madeline and Nicole are still there, somewhere in those hallways with the red carpet and the brass room numbers. Still waiting with the ski people for the next group of explorers to walk through those double doors and start documenting what they find. Still guests, forever guests.